also had a chance to play a bit of Ed, check out his story mode in Street Fighter 6, and it is fun to see that along with the character coming out and acknowledging some of the bits of Street Fighter V's lore, Baba Mwalimu, the monkey, is getting pushed harder than ever. I brought it up in advance just to let because I'm letting you know, and I'm letting everybody know that there's a crazy ass piece of Ed lore where he's chilling with a hyper intelligent monkey, and I don't
What
know
about the dolphin, man?
what they're gonna do with it. And now they're just expanding. Yes, they're expanding out into a full on Saturday morning cartoon crew, where you've got him like in various states of like cool dress, and he's like the smart one on the team, the Winston kind of thing. Yeah, the gorilla lore, and he's constantly referencing him too in his win quotes against like Blanca and stuff. He's like, "Man, I'm not afraid of you. I got a real gorilla on my team. You're not a beast, whatever." So they really want everyone to be very aware of Baba Mwalimu.
So what is the deal with all these psycho-powered animals? Are these just like bison sitting around going, what if I want to put myself in the body of a dolphin?
So it more or less turns out that the bison scientists were working on various organisms and bodies and how they handle psychopower, and of the experiments they didn't limit it to humans. There were a lot of humans, there were a lot of different intensity treatments that went through, but they said, let's run it on some animals too, let's see what happens. And in some cases you got a dolphin, you got Totsugeki ready to go for future reference, and then in other cases you get your Winston, and then they also set up as well like the rest of the crew in a way that is very reminiscent of like Cammy and Delta Red. It's like here's me and here's my background buddies. You'll never see them again.
Yeah, they'll live in my ending slides.
And Udon comics every once in a while, and you'll be like, oh shit, Udon remembers George. But it's and so like they're like, hey, once Ed came about and rescued Falk, then like that whole crew got started, and Neo Shadowloo was born. It is interesting though, because with his story in the arcade mode and then in World Tour, where you go meet him in the subway and like advance your relationship a bit, you actually get, it's his story, I guess, since it's like right, but it's like this late into the DLC. It's like the third to last of the characters. They're just straight up telling you what's going on with JP.
Oh,
so like his second or third interaction with you, he straight up just tells you what's up, and then you see them in their arcade mode as well have an interaction. So basically JP just goes, hey, yeah, so I'm the former finance minister of Shadowloo. I'm the guy that was in charge of all the money, and of all the experiments and shit that like got burnt and destroyed, like you're the best living example of psychopower. So we kind of want you to run this whole new Remnants of Shadowloo thing. We want you to be the new king, essentially. And he's kind of like setting up the throne for Ed to take over. And Ed's like, fuck this, I don't want it. I don't want it,
I guess they'll just have to clone Bison's soul from a pile of dirt.
With all the Seth clones in the bottles and shit like that. Yeah. And then as well, and from talking to him more, I didn't complete it, but from going a bit further into his thing, so he's got that, right? He's got like, here's the keys to the evil throne. Take it as soon as you want it, type of thing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, fuck that. And then there's also the part where he's like, and in anyone who has psycho power inside of them, it's kind of like also making them kind of crazy as well.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
They're freaking out. So when you see random people running around like the final area with like psycho power inside of them, even if it's just a little bit, they're completely freaking out and losing their minds and getting violent. It has a Satsui no Hado kind of effect on people, which if you're like able to control it and do cool shit, Rose style or so, all the more impressive. So once it's inside of you, it's also fucking making you go crazy and all that. And then on top of that, Ed is also straight up like, yeah, so Balrog wasn't the best dad. like
What?
like he not in that he wasn't like abusive or anything. He actually cares for me and he treated me like a person, even though when he first met him he said, "Ooh, I picked up a good payday." Right? But he cared for him and he raised him well, but he wasn't a good person, is what he's saying. He's like, as a role model goes, and you're
he's not a good person.
Shock. I can't believe it. And but he did treat Ed well enough. Again,
that's weird.
Yeah, so they want.
That's really strange.
And I think they wanted to kind of underline that it's like, hey, when it came to like, he found him and he's like, ooh, I'm gonna sell this kid and get paid, And then he went, actually, let me raise him, and he brought him some clothes. And one of the artworks is like him handing him some new gear and getting him dressed up and stuff. And more or less, kind of like, yeah, he did raise him and treat him, the way he describes it is like he treated me like a real person instead of like a psycho experiment, But while treating Ed decently, he's also a terrible person. So that's your role model to follow. So Ed is basically just by a thread, not a ginormous evil piece of shit. Like he's really trying hard, and he's like that's why he's full of attitude and he's got all that spunk and he's all about like trying to go and save people who are, from the group as well and all that. But there is a giant fucking slide towards insane evil that Ed should be, that he's like barely not falling into at this point, So good for him, I suppose. Good for him and his willpower.
Let me ask you. You played a little bit of Ed. I saw people joking around, but I didn't quite get it, which was, how is Ed a boxer, but he forgot how to throw a proper jab?
Good joke. That's pretty good.
What is that? Does he have just a terrible light punch?
So animation wise, he's throwing out a nice little 1, 2, 3, and he's got like a little jab straight and then a hook, right? And it's like, oh, he's doing the real shit. As far as in-game properties go, his jab is very bad. That is
hilarious.
It's super stubby. It's insanely stubby, right? And I mean, his whole kit is it seems like he's probably going to end up being like low mid or so. Like right now he's got issues that basically are like going to prevent him from being super duper strong. It's very early, so someone might still invent some crazy shit with him. But as far as his kit goes, he has a very stubby jab, and you have to get really, really close to use it. It is properly like fast, but you have to be really close, and you can't cancel his crouching jab into a special. You have to do a crouching into standing. So anyways, the nitty gritty.
It's really strange considering his dad has like the longest arms of anyone in Street Fighter other than Dhalsim.
Well, I mean, to make up for that, he's got snatch, right? He's got the flickers and his snatch. So range is not a problem for him. The cool stuff he gets is the ability to zone. He can do the like I said, snatch from a distance. And if he pulls you in with that, even if you're blocking, he's at an advantage.
Oh, he moves you anyway?
He pulls you into him even if you're blocking, and he gets to move first.
Oh, I love that.
So that's really good, right? And like, because he gets the ability to do that, they're gonna take other things away from him. So they take away from him, for example, he has no overhead. If you're crouching and blocking, he has nothing he can really do to just like open you up, So the entire way he's built is essentially around the idea of counter hits and like plus frames, I guess is the way I'll, and
he's a counterpuncher.
He's a counterpuncher, and he's really about like opening you up, making you afraid. And if you start doing things like going like, I'm gonna drive impact from like full screen, or I'm gonna parry so that I don't get pulled in, he can go from like his little, he's got like a Yamazaki kind of like flicker hold. So he can go from that into like dashing up to you and grabbing you.
Oh, great.
So there's a little mix up there where like, if you are afraid of blocking the snatch, he can eventually like throw in a mix and move around and stuff. Not to mention, he's got a really good charged heavy punch, which he used to have, that now goes through fireballs and then like crumples you. So,
I mean, that's appropriate.
Yeah, so it feels like he can fight JP really well.
Just like Dad would have done.
Appropriately. It's pretty good, So
You know, it's the nature of like Street Fighter existing on an exclusively 2D plane. But the idea of like all these fights and Ryu is like dead ass straight ahead of you, and just everyone just completely refusing to move 1 foot to the left out of the way of the fireball, except for only Balrog.
Sure. Well, I will say that like in his super and his win poses, which I like that they're doing this more. He's stepping into and out of the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like he's got a win pose where he's like, I got a whole lot left in the tank, and he starts doing like a little jab sequence as he's sidestepping, and he's doing a proper like 1-2 training regimen, and like he moves from his back towards the camera, off the line of the fight, all the way to being behind the line of the fight. And that stuff looks really cool. I love when you play with that, you know? Yeah, like the idea of, I don't want to get into Fatal Fury's line system where there's like, you know, like, oh, you can jump into the background or whatever. I mean, fucking Vega used to do that, and shit's bullshit. But no, it's just visually, it looks very cool, you know, with Ed. Yeah, if you're going to want to play him, he's going to be work. He's probably one of the most he's a very technical character. You're gonna have to put in a lot. He's not gonna like carry you at all. You're gonna have to learn proper timings for stuff. Which is interesting because he went from being super easy execution, you know, to being again still like now normal in execution, but he's got, for example, the ducking kind of move, like, you know, like the Dudley kind of dash forward. And but the follow-ups are not based on what strength you press of button. It's based on how early or how late you press it. So if you do it in the first half, you get one type of uppercut. You do it in the second half, and you get another. You know, so stuff like that is pretty cool. And it also like makes him more reminiscent of Balrog in a way by having like dashing uppercuts and dashing straights. It's like, yeah, he did learn how to do that stuff too. But overall, yeah, I mean. Again, because the style feels so good, no matter how good our baddie is to play, I'm messing around either way. But lore-wise, it is interesting I'm just like, okay, so they're setting up, the reason why Ed more or less returned is because like he's being set up as the reluctant Rock Howard.
Well,
I don't want
storyline wise, the reason why he returned for real is because the game doesn't have a boxer.
Well, there's that. But like in terms of like setting up future seeds for stuff or whatever, like his was one of the most obvious. Like here's a seed for a future character, in the form of Balrog with the kid, and then they actually had him become, you know, a part of the storyline as well. And like again, Fei Long's ending in Street Fighter 4 was like a dagger that then turned out to be Fong's dagger and shit. So, you know, a lot of the time they're like, we don't know where we're going with any of this. We're just going to do something, and then, I don't know, let Bengus figure it out in 5 years. He'll pull something out of his ass.
And then even though the character we set up wasn't the character that we set up, we'll say it's the character we set up. Because Fong doesn't use daggers.
No, not really, but it's a part of the poison group or... Anyway, whatever. And like, I think Ed like has a quote where like when he beats Aki, he says like, you remind me of this loser from a couple years ago or whatever. You know, so yeah. And to be fair, you can go find Fong in the World Tour mode just standing under a bridge now, right? So
it's so weird that he's
there. He's there to confirm that he will never be in the game proper.
Hi there, I'm Fong from Street Fighter. You may notice that my model isn't as high quality as many of the other models you've seen in this game. That's because all it will do is stand here and not move.
Speaking of quality too, like I do like as well with him the continuing trend of like lots of extra animation. You know, when you finish doing certain moves or certain things, there's a little extra baked in taunt kind of thing. Like we started seeing that back around when Cody came out in 5, where he'd have like a lot of tie straightening or like little arm rotations where it's just like, you know, like it's a little extra flair in the fight where you're nothing's changing about your hitbox or your hurtbox, but you with Ed, you see him doing a lot of boxing movements and like head sways and shit that fucking gets me excited. So,
hey, let me ask you, how do you feel about what I would call Street Fighter 6 pre-Akuma? Because as we're sitting here talking about Ed, we're like, yeah, there's gonna be people picking up Ed, but we are like a couple months away from like 40% of all fighters. Kuma.
Yeah, so you're talking about what is the early access Street Fighter 6 right now.
Yeah.
We are in early. I was saying this to Rami the other day, the Akuma player from here, just like, oh yeah, we're in early access until Akuma drops, because once he does, we're gonna get one button teleports. We're gonna get drive rush demon flips. We're gonna get so many insane things on that character that I don't even know what modern mode will look like, because they have to choose what to cut, right? Think about it. It's like, okay, you want to give modern mode Akuma his fireball button? Sure. Is that going to be the regular or the red fireball? Right? Then there's the air version. You know? Do you make it so that he can choose to bounce back off the air fireball, or he gets to drop with it, or you give him both tools? You give him his demon flip, you give him his Tatsu variations. Do you give him that crazy shit he was doing in 5 where he could do Shoryuken into Tatsu into air fireball, or what? It's madness, you know? Yeah, exactly, and Tekken certainly isn't making him seem any more of a chill character. He's probably gonna be immediately top 1. And I
just saw somebody in the chat say, imagine Akuma comes out and he just sucks. Akuma isn't allowed to suck in Street Fighter.
Ever. He's gonna come out. He's gonna have 2 level 3s, because he's gonna have the big new level 3 that might be a version of the Chop somehow, and the Raging Demon's gonna be there, and they're gonna sell you the big high demand character who's also gonna be fucking destroying the cast. You know, it's gonna be the Yin and Yang edition. It's like
the whole character is built on having a move set where he can do things that other characters aren't allowed to do. And so the only way they've ever balanced him is like, yeah, make him take hits like a wet diaper.
He's a glass cannon. He's a glass cannon. Yeah, I mean, I think, and also not only that, but like fighting games, as far as like DLC goes, they figured out that the optimal strategy is not to take a chance trying to sell you a brand new character you may or may not like or care about. Right? How do you feel about Aki? I don't know. I think she's cool. Okay,
but
maybe not. I don't know. I'd have to figure it out. Let me think about it. Right? Sure. Well, use a rental ticket to see if you want to. Okay.
Yeah.
No. Okay. They figured out that it is. We're gonna take the character you want the most.
Put them in.
We're gonna make them put them at the end, and we're gonna make them really strong, so that when you do get them, you also win a lot. And that's going to feel good. It's going to feel good to win with the character you love. and that's how we get you back.
I don't know if I like Aki versus people just like frothing at the mouth going, when am I going to get to play based Coomer again?
Oh, you want your Biken? You want your fucking Dizzy? Guess what? You're going to have to wait. Yeah. So that's the bit, you know, and the fact that the fact that they teased it, they showed a little bit of that artwork, it got leaked, etc. But everybody knows that, like, as soon as Akuma drops, Street Fighter 6 is now out of early access.
Play Akuma. I'll play Shotos.
Yeah.
I'll play Akuma.
Yeah. There you go.
Ever since he does the hurricane kick into the Shoryu, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I love that.
I can't wait to have to fucking deal with 18 different moves, and then the drive rush version, and then the burnout version, and then
I can't wait to deal with a meta completely defined by, can your character deal with air fireballs? No, die.
Like his double roundhouse kick, you know, like just drive rushing into pop from super far away, and yeah, gonna be a good time. I would hope that, like, the one thing that a lot of the discussion I've been having with people is just like, okay, so for some characters their level 2 is a utility super. So for Akuma it's generally always been, you know, like fireball, uppercuts, and then you can go with either the third strike Tatsu going upwards, or you can go with the big chop. Do you give him instead like an install that kind of resembles his old V trigger, so you can just have him do anything into anything for as long as he wants, you know?
What? Yeah, you know what? I don't know if Akuma is strong enough in this version. What if we turned him into Yun from Third Strike as well? and had his good super be the install.
Just give him like an agent anyways. I mean, lore-wise, which I always like to see incorporated into the gameplay, it would be interesting to find something like if him as a character, like what else is there to do besides he's gone beyond human and he's insanely evil and he's always that, right? It might be interesting if there's something inside of him that is like that echoes or harkens back to Gouken somewhat, you know? In the way that Ryu has like gone to the next level and he's got the sash and he's kind of
like Gouken moves, but evil,
or something. You know what I mean? Like something to just show that like there's another dimension over what has he been doing for 20 years. You know, like it might be interesting to work in like, oh yeah, something about his brother and his style is like he's come to some conclusion, right? Whatever his philosophical Satsuno Hado bullshit has been, he's reached the end of a journey, and that's going to show in his moveset.
Akuma's just like, I'm the strongest creature ever. I'm Mr. Shakedown of Street Fighter. And then we look over to Oro, and he's like, yeah, but can you, like, telekinetically levitate rocks with your brain, Akuma? How come you can't do that?
What's up with that, though? Yeah.
If you're so strong, lift this rock with your brain.
While also protecting a little turtle behind you with your other arm. Idiot. No fucking kill count. Low-ass KD ratio having motherfucker. Yeah, it would be sick if so. Yeah, it would be sick though. I definitely would not mind a win pose of like teleporting back to the fruit stand, dropping down and handing a kid a fruit.
Yeah,
never forget the business.